would you mind telling us who you are, where you work, and what you do in your position?
So I'm Brian Woodard. I am an assistant dean in the College of Engineering at the University of Illinois. I am recently doing that role, but prior to that, for almost 10 years, I was the director of undergraduate programs for aerospace engineering at the University of Illinois.
How would you say that your position fits within the field of aerospace and engineering?
So my position, I would say, is a pretty non-traditional position within aerospace engineering. A pretty small percentage of aerospace engineers go on to work at universities to begin with, and within that, the vast majority of them go and do traditional aerospace research, right? Your regular professors that you think of. And so I've taken much more of an engineering education focus with my career and moving into an administrative role. So yeah, pretty not traditional, I think.
Can you tell us a little bit about your career path and what led you to the role that you're in?
Yeah. So I have my bachelor's degree, a master's, and a PhD, all in aerospace engineering. And definitely at the beginning of my educational journey, I thought that I would go work a regular industry job. I don't know, working for Boeing, making airplanes or whatever people do. And as I kind of went through that, I saw the types of jobs that my friends were getting. A lot of them have really cool jobs, but I was pretty sure that I wanted to go to grad school and do something a little different than that. I really liked the research opportunities that I had, and so I did research for my master's degree, and then still wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do. Had a great opportunity to continue doing research for my PhD. But as I went through my PhD, I realized that I didn't necessarily want the regular professor career that a lot of people want when they get PhDs, because that's it's very, very traditional research focused sort of career, and I liked that, but that I really liked the educational stuff more. So that's when I started looking for opportunities to have more of a teaching focused role, and so then that's what I did for many years. I was able to teach, well, actually at all levels, I think. But no, maybe I never taught a sophomore level class, but I taught freshman, junior, and senior classes a lot of different times. And so that's kind of the progression through that, I guess.
What inspired you to go into your field, and what were there any challenges for you getting into aerospace engineering?
I don't even know what inspired me specifically. Everything having to do with space. I was that kind of kid, and I don't think you have to be like that to be successful in aerospace, but I do think that aerospace attracts a lot of people who grew up like that, where they were just, I don't know, maybe obsessed is too strong, but when I was little, I read every book I could about, I don't know, moon landings and Mars rovers and, space missions. And I loved all that stuff. I went to space camp when I was in, I don't know, when you go to space camp, when you're in like 5th grade or 6th grade or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I went to space camp. So, I loved all of this kind of stuff. And so to me, being an aerospace engineer was what was like the logical choice. I don't ever remember really wanting to do anything else, but I don't know what, I think the second part of your questions were what challenges or obstacles or something. I don't know what I really had. I will definitely say that growing up where I did in a very small, quite rural school, I didn't know anybody that was an aerospace engineer. I just like had this idea of what that would mean, and so I don't know. It's what I majored in college, but I would imagine that is the case for a lot of people, but I didn't really know what that meant. I mean, there weren't really even a lot of engineers around that I interacted with, let alone aerospace engineers. And so I think that was a little bit of a challenge that I was able to say that that's what I wanted to do with a lot of confidence. But looking back, I didn't really have any idea what that meant.
I'm wondering, let me see. Okay, so one of the questions that I had specifically are, what's the biggest issue that you think is currently facing aerospace engineering as an industry and a field? And what do you see the future of the industry looking like in the next 10 years?
Mm-hmm. I think there's maybe two different kind of aspects of the biggest challenge facing the field. I think one aspect, and I don't think the aerospace industry can't really fix this on their own. I mean, like this is like also a challenge with universities because we train their people, the people that they hire. But I mean, one aspect is that of the challenge, I think, is I think a lot of the industries have the same problem. Aerospace seems to have a really pretty big diversity problem, right? I mean, the people who work at these companies, especially the people in like any sort of upper level management, doesn't reflect what the rest of the United States looks like. It's I mean, I mean, it's mostly white men.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think that's a big problem and challenge for them. But I mean, they can do what they can. But when as right, the University of Illinois graduates about 20% of their class is women every year. Well, aerospace companies, I mean, they can't do a lot better than that then because there aren't people who are trained to do these jobs otherwise, and so it's a bigger problem than that. But I think that that's one big aspect of it. And it's of course not just the underrepresentation of women in aerospace. It's also a lot of other groups, socioeconomic status, and then of course racial ethnic background too. So I think that's that's sort of one aspect of the big challenge that I think aerospace has. And then the other on the technical side of things is probably sustainability. It seems like, I mean, of course, a lot fewer people fly than drive cars. So cars make a bigger impact on our carbon footprint, but airplanes not really super efficient in that way. And so, just looking at everything that can be done with more sustainable fuels and whatever the next, big advancement is that makes airplanes more efficient. So I think the environmental impact is the other big technical challenge in the next decade or decades, probably.
What is your best advice for a student thinking about going into your field? And what skills do you think are most important for someone interested in a job like yours in aerospace engineering?
Kind of cheesy, but to do what you are really interested in, to do what you like. I think, especially when you come to college or maybe even in high school, it's easy to get caught up in, well, this is kind of what everybody's doing, so this is it. And I mean that within even within technical stuff, right? Obviously, there's bigger picture, following along with what everyone else is doing. But that's not really what I mean. I just mean even with technical things. But if you're passionate about something, figure out a way to do that. Work on a project with that, research that, especially once you're in college. There's a zillion opportunities to create your own group if this is something that you're interested in, and lead that, and just do what you're passionate about. So that's my cliche advice. And there was a second part of that question too. What did you ask?
What skills do you think are most important for someone interested in a job in aerospace?
I mean, no doubt, you know, if we're talking about a high school student, no doubt it's your math and physics skills. There are the basis for everything. But you also just must be able to communicate, talk to people, express your ideas effectively, you know, writing and presenting and things like that. And so, you know, I think those skills sometimes are overlooked by our prospective engineering students, but they're really, you know, just as important as those math and physics skills. So I think that's pretty key, being able to communicate, and then also kind of go along with that is to be able to work in teams and work with other people to accomplish some task. But usually any sort of problems with teams just results from bad communication. So it really comes back to communication.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of your job?
Oh, teaching and working with college students. I mean, like a lot of my job is rewarding. You know, I mean, it's fun to see students who, through some class project or some assignment, test, whatever, when they understand finally the details of something they've kind of always wanted to understand. I think, you know, I think it's really fun to see. You know, it's like, oh, okay, that's why this is done that way. You know, oh, well, yeah, it's because, you know, this is the way that, you know, the physics requires we do this. But, you know, when you go through all that process. So I think that's really fun. And then, you know, seeing our students graduate too, of course, especially, you know, the students who were awesome all the way through, you know, it's great, but it's not really surprising that they graduated, right? What's really fun to see is people graduate who you know they had some personal struggles with school or with other stuff over their 4 years, and they found a way to power through. And especially the people that I've gotten to know really well, you know, seeing them graduate, and you know, graduation's only step one, right? And then seeing them go get real jobs makes me so happy.
What advice would you give to kids who are coming from maybe a high school that doesn't have a strong STEM like course load that they can take?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe, well, I guess I can come up with some advice for how to get into college if you're in that scenario. But I guess what I would say to those students, if they've already succeeded at getting into a university, is not to be intimidated or like overwhelmed or whatever by the people they're going to be there with, who have, you know, like who knows, you know, 30 hours of AP credit because they went to some fancy suburban high school. You know, like that's great. I mean, and that's good for them. You know, I mean, they took advantage of the opportunities that they had. But, you know, don't let that bother you. I don't know. I think that's important, you know, to not get down about that. You know, when you're coming from a smaller high school or something, you take advantage of the opportunities you have, and don't worry about what the others have. And, you know, there's lots of resources here to help you get caught up to that same place and graduate in the same way and get the same degree. So it's my advice for once you're in college. I guess maybe the kind of step before that is kind of standard advice that I give when I talk to students about their college application. But that's to get involved with things that they're actually passionate about. And like, don't worry about the fact that there's not, you know, 20 clubs that you can be a member of at your school. Really, it's not what admissions cares about. They don't want to see that you were in 20 things. They want to see that you did, you know, 1 or 2 things really, really well. And so, you know, grab on to whatever those things are and do those. And, you know, I think that's a lot more important than some, you know, than being the president of 10 different organizations or something. And then kind of to go along with that is that if your school doesn't offer a bunch of STEM clubs or something, I think that's totally fine. There are there are many ways to demonstrate and improve your leadership skills and your teamwork skills through all different types of involvement, and you can demonstrate leadership through all of those, and those will help you immensely. Also, it doesn't have to be exactly a STEM-based club. I mean, something sciencey is good, but not required.
Yeah, I think when I was applying, I definitely submitted my art portfolio to almost every university.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think people like to see students with diverse interests. I mean, we want to make sure that you also like didn't want to be an art major, that you really wanted to be an engineer. But I mean, it's great to see, I think, students with diverse interests.
All right. What is one thing you wish somebody would have told you before you decided to enter the field?
I really don't know what I wish someone had really told me. I mean, kind of gets back to, and I don't think it would have made any different career decisions, but sort of gets back to what I was saying before about how I definitely didn't know any aerospace engineers, but I really didn't know any engineers at all. And so I guess in some ways, I kind of wish I had known what an engineer really does. Besides just, I mean, I knew final products, of course, right? Like everybody, right? It's like, well, I know what an airplane is and I know what a car is and things like that. So like, I want to work on that kind of stuff, but I didn't really know what like the job meant. But I don't know that I wish someone would have told me that.
How would you say that working on a project like this helps you develop the skills that you need to go forward in aerospace engineering?
Yeah. So, I think any of these projects, I mean, this is kind of what the A100 projects are modeled to do. Any of these things, I think what's important is that you're, well, I guess you could simplify it and go all the way back to, you're going through the scientific method, but that you're thinking about the design of your rocket and you're not just arbitrarily throwing some stuff together, right? You're doing this because, I've thought about the principles that govern stability and control. And so I'm putting fins on the rocket in a way that I think will work best based on my understanding of that. I'm moving the center of gravity in such a way that I think will lead to a stable rocket. I'm picking an engine because I think that will send my rocket to the desired height. And that, I mean, that's the whole process of being an engineer, is making informed decisions, the best decisions you can, then building it, going and launching it, and then coming back and revisiting and saying, oh, well, I guess that was wrong, and trying to understand why that was wrong and how to do it better for next time. So, I think that's the thing to learn from this, even a small project like these rockets.
That's pretty much all I had in terms of question wise. Thank you very much again for agreeing to do this.